infertile, divorced, failure. Those words were displayed in bright light across a 10-foot screen at my sister's wedding reception. Around 200 guests laughed openly. My father smiled and calmly said, "It is only a joke, sweetheart." My mother slowly stirred her wine glass as if she were watching a live performance. And my sister, the bride, leaned into the microphone and added, "Do not laugh too hard. She might actually cry." I did not cry. Instead, I picked up my phone and typed one single word, "Begin." Within seconds, the room became so quiet that you could clearly hear the ice cracking inside my mother's glass. What followed did not just disrupt the celebration, it completely exposed 16 years of lies and destroyed the carefully built reputation my family had created. Before I continue, take a moment to like and subscribe only if this story truly connects with you, and leave a comment sharing where you are watching from and what time it is there. My name is Thea. I am 34 years old. Now, let me take you back to 4 weeks before the wedding, to the night when I received the phone call that started everything. It is 11 p.m. on a Thursday night. I am sitting at my desk in Richmond working on elevation drawings for a historic courthouse renovation project. My coffee has gone cold and my back aches from sitting too long. It feels like a normal Thursday. Suddenly, my phone lights up with an unknown number. It has a Virginia area code, but it is not from Richmond. It is from somewhere smaller, somewhere I recognize from my past. I answer the call. "Lyndon?" a woman's voice asks, careful and professional. "My name is Dolores Vargas. I am a nurse at Shenandoah Hills Care Center. Your grandmother asked me to contact you." My hand tightens around the phone. Grandma Ruth is 84 years old, and she is the only person in my family who ever made me feel like I truly belonged. She is scheduled for hip replacement surgery in 3 weeks. Dolores explains that her health is stable, but at her age, there are serious risks. "She has been asking for you," she adds. I close my eyes. It has been 2 years since I last saw her. I had quietly visited her one Tuesday afternoon, choosing a time when I knew my father would not be there. We sat together for 40 minutes. She held my hand and spoke about her garden. Later, a staff member mentioned my visit to my father's office, and Harold Lyndon made sure the front desk received clear instructions. Thea is not on the approved visitor list. "There is something else," Dolores continues, her voice lowering. "Your father told Ruth that you can visit, but only if you attend your sister's wedding first. It is in 3 weeks. Of course, everything involving Harold always comes with conditions." "And Miss Lyndon," she says after a short pause, "your grandmother wanted me to tell you one more thing. She said they are planning something at the reception. Something about you. She wanted you to be prepared." I slowly lift my eyes from my phone. On the wall across from my desk hangs a framed certificate, Virginia Emerging Architect of the Year. After 5 years of complete silence, the first voice I hear from that town is not my mother's. It is a nurse calling on behalf of my grandmother. To fully understand what happened next, I need to go back even further, 16 years into the past. I am 18 years old in my senior year of high school, sitting at the kitchen table in my parents' house in Millbrook, Virginia, a town where everyone knows your last name and exactly how much your father is worth. Harold Lyndon slides a document across the table toward me. It is a land transfer form. The property listed is a 2-acre parcel on the edge of town, with rolling grass, a small creek, and one old oak tree. My grandmother Ruth gave it to me on my 16th birthday. She legally signed it over to me and said, "This is yours, Thea, no matter what." My father's voice cuts through my thoughts. "Sign it," he says. "I need this parcel for the Oakdale project. Your grandmother gave it to you, and now I am telling you to give it back." I look toward my mother. Vivian Lyndon sits at the end of the table, casually flipping through a home decor magazine. She does not look up or say a single word. The only sound in the room is the turning of the pages. I refuse to sign. 3 days later, my father cancels my college tuition fund, the account he had been building since the day I was born. I find out when the registrar's office sends me a letter. 1 week after that, Harold stands in the foyer with his arms crossed and says, "If you walk out that door, you do not come back." My younger sister, Paige, who was 11 years old at the time, stands at the top of the stairs watching everything. She says nothing, she simply observes. I leave the house carrying one duffel bag and $43 in my checking account. That same night, Harold tells the neighbors that I dropped out of school, ran away with a boy, and broke my mother's heart. None of it is true, but in Millbrook, my father's version of events is the only one that matters. After I leave, I spend 2 weeks sleeping in my car. I work at a gas station outside Charlottesville and later earn my GED at 19 while working double shifts as a waitress in a diner that smells like bacon grease and cleaning chemicals. I apply to community college and eventually transfer to Virginia Commonwealth University on a need-based scholarship. I choose architecture because I like the idea of creating things that last, things that cannot be taken away with a simple signature. I graduate at 23. No one from my family attends the ceremony. I wear my cap and gown, walk across the stage, shake the dean's hand, and then return to my small studio apartment where I sit on the floor and eat takeout alone. At 24, I marry Drew Halpern, a man I met through Harold's old business network before I was forced out of the family. He is 12 years older than me, charming in public but controlling in private. He manages my bank account, filters my phone calls, and decides which friends I am allowed to keep. He is a quieter, more subtle version of my father. I leave him at 27. At 28, a doctor informs me that I cannot have children. It is a medical fact. I sit alone in a clinic waiting room under harsh fluorescent lights, holding a 2-year-old magazine, and process the news by myself. Somehow, Paige learns about it. Drew had stayed in contact with my family after the divorce. He always valued having leverage over me. Now I am 34 years old, working as a senior architect at Mercer and Hollis in Richmond. I specialize in restoring historic buildings, including courthouses, libraries, and theaters. My professional name is T. Mercer Linden. I kept Drew's last name as part of mine because it was already recognized in the architecture field. I did not hide my life from my family for dramatic reasons. I simply stopped trying to prove myself to people who had already decided I was nothing. In Millbrook, nobody knows any of this. The morning after Dolores's call, I sit alone in my office with the door closed. Through the glass wall, I can see my colleague Marcus Cole at his desk. He is wearing headphones and working on cable management simulations for a museum project. Marcus is 36 years old, a former Army IT specialist, and the calmest person I have ever met. He is also the closest thing I have to family. I call Dolores back and ask, "How serious is the surgery risk?" She explains, "At 84, with her bone density, the surgeon says there is a real chance of complications. She is strong, but she is not young." Then she pauses and adds quietly, "She cries your name some nights. She keeps your letters under her pillow." I press my knuckles against my forehead. My grandmother hides my letters under her pillow as if they are something forbidden, because in my family, loving me has to be done in secret. I realize I have two choices. I can go to the wedding, face whatever Paige and my parents have planned, and see Grandma Ruth, or I can stay in Richmond, remain safe, and possibly never see her again. I walk over and knock on Marcus's glass wall. He removes his headphones and listens carefully as I explain everything: the wedding, the warning about the reception, and the condition tied to visiting my grandmother. When I finish, he leans back and says, "If you go with a plan, not with hope." I nod and reply, "I know, and I am going. She is 84, Marcus. She might not survive the surgery." He nods without arguing. "Then we make sure you are not walking in unprepared," he says. That night, I book a hotel in Millbrook for the wedding weekend. I take out a dress I bought for myself, a navy blue dress that is well-fitted and professional, not the one my mother will try to force on me. Marcus told me to go with a plan, so I begin creating one. For the first time in 16 years, I feel grateful that my family continues to underestimate me. 3 weeks before the wedding, Harold insists on a family dinner as a condition before he will allow my name to be added to the nursing home visitor list. I drive 2 hours to Millbrook. The house looks exactly the same as it always has, with white columns, a perfectly maintained lawn, and an American flag near the entrance. Everything reflects a carefully controlled image of respectability. No one greets me with a hug. Vivian studies my appearance and says, "You look thin. Are you eating properly?" I am not thin. I run 3 miles every morning and maintain a healthy routine. But this is how my mother communicates, using concern as a subtle form of criticism disguised as a question that no one expects you to answer honestly. Harold sits at the head of the table in the same chair with the same posture. "So, what are you doing these days?" he asks. "I work at a design firm," I reply. "Answering phones, I assume," he says. I continue eating and choose not to correct him. Paige arrives late, surrounded by the scent of expensive perfume and a strong sense of self-importance. She raises her hand under the dining room light to show off a 4-carat engagement ring. Later, she pulls me aside in the hallway and says, "I need you to wear something simple at the wedding. Garrett's family has very high standards." She tilts her head slightly and asks, "Are you still alone? No one in your life?" I remain silent. She smiles and says, "I guess some people are just not meant for that." Before I leave, Vivian hands me a garment bag. Inside is a pale beige dress that is shapeless and 2 sizes too large. "This will be perfect for you," she says. At the door, Harold places his hand on my shoulder and says, "The Whitmores are old money. They judge people carefully. One mistake could ruin this deal. Do not embarrass us." As I drive back toward the highway, a name comes to mind: Whitmore. I recognize it, but not from Paige's engagement or Harold's business conversations. I recognize it from a project file sitting on my desk in Richmond. The next morning, I arrive at my office and open the client database. I search for the name and find it immediately: Whitmore Heritage Foundation. Our firm has been hired for the Millbrook Heritage Restoration Project, which involves converting a Civil War-era textile mill into a community arts center. The foundation is fully funding the project. The client contact listed is Eleanor Whitmore, the chair of the foundation and Garrett Whitmore's mother. I have been the lead architect on this project for 6 months. We have exchanged dozens of emails and completed 3 video calls. She knows my work, my ideas, and my project plans. She knows T. Mercer Linden. However, she has never seen my face. We have never met face to face. I sit with that thought for a long time, carefully considering it. I do not plan to use this connection in any way. I am not like Harold. I do not use relationships as tools or weapons, but I do store the information in my mind. If everything goes wrong in Millbrook, I will not be a stranger to the most influential family in that room. Later that evening, Marcus begins his own research. He calls me at 9 p.m. and gets straight to the point. "The reception venue is Millbrook Country Club. They have hired a local AV company to handle the projector and sound system. There will be a slideshow, speeches, and the usual setup. And here is something important. The AV company is short-staffed. They just posted an opening for a freelance technician for the event." I pause before responding, then say, "Marcus, I already applied. They called me back in 20 minutes. He replies calmly, "You do not have to do this." I answer, "Marcus, I am walking into a room where my family has already prepared something against me." He responds, "I am just making sure you have control over the situation." By Wednesday, Marcus is officially confirmed as a freelance AV technician for the Whitmore Linden wedding reception. He will have direct access to the projector system, the USB ports, and the soundboard controls. Meanwhile, I prepare a short presentation. It is not an attack, it is simply the truth. It includes photos, my degrees, my awards, and the reality of my life. The title slide reads, "The Real Thea Linden." On Thursday, I save the presentation to a USB drive and hand it to Marcus. He looks at me and says, "You are not going into a battle, Thea. You are going to a wedding, but if they decide to take the first step, you will be ready to take the final one." 1 week before the wedding, Harold finally allows my name to be added to the nursing home visitor list. The condition is clear: 30 minutes supervised, and Vivian will be present. Shenandoah Hills smells strongly of hand sanitizer and overcooked vegetables. Vivian sits in a chair in the hallway, already focused on her phone, sending messages. She does not enter the room with me. Grandma Ruth looks smaller than I remember. Her white hair has thinned and her hands shake slightly, but her eyes remain sharp and aware, exactly the same as always. The moment I sit down, she reaches out and grabs my hand. "Let me look at you," she says softly. She studies my face carefully. "You are healthy. You are strong. I can see it." I nod and say, "I am doing well, Grandma." Her expression turns serious. "Do not let them break you again." Her grip tightens as she adds, "You are the strongest one in this family. You always have been." Then she reaches under her pillow and pulls out a small envelope. Dolores helped her hide it from the staff because Harold pays to monitor everything. Inside the envelope is a photocopy of a property deed, the 2-acre parcel. My name is clearly written on it. "That land is yours," Ruth says firmly. "It always has been. Your father never managed to transfer it. He has been angry about it ever since." I stare at the document in disbelief. For 16 years, I believed Harold had found a legal way to take it from me, some technical detail or forged signature. But he never did. The land still belongs to me. "He tells people it is part of Linden Properties," Ruth whispers. "But it is not. He never had the right." A knock interrupts us. Vivian's voice comes through the door, sharp and impatient. "Time is up." I quickly fold the envelope and place it inside my jacket pocket. I lean forward and kiss Ruth on the forehead. "That is my girl," she murmurs. I walk past my mother, who does not ask a single question about Ruth. Instead, she checks her lipstick and her phone and says, "Let us go. I have a fitting appointment." I leave the nursing home carrying two things with me: my grandmother's support and clear proof that my father has been lying about more than just me. 6 days before the wedding, I am in my apartment in Richmond. Marcus is sitting on my couch with his laptop open. On the screen is the presentation I created. The first slide shows a photo of me wearing my cap and gown at graduation, standing alone but smiling. The caption reads, "No one came to my graduation. I went anyway." The second slide shows my framed architecture license hanging on my office wall. Licensed architect, Commonwealth of Virginia. The third slide shows me at a construction site wearing a hard hat and holding blueprints. Senior architect, Mercer and Hollis. The fourth slide displays my award plaque, Virginia Emerging Architect of the Year. The fifth slide is simple text on a black background. "You called me a dropout. I have a master's degree. You called me broke. I own my home. You called me a failure. I design buildings for a living." Marcus scrolls through each slide and nods. "It is clear, direct, and factual. No insults, just evidence," he says. I reply, "That is the goal. I do not want to attack them. I want the truth to be stronger than their joke." He closes the laptop and asks, "Are you sure you do not want to include the part about your father and the Oakdale project? The land?" I shake my head. "No, I am not like him. I do not turn information into a weapon." He looks at me and asks, "Then what starts it?" I show him my phone. A text message is already typed out. Just one word: begin. "When I send this," I explain, "you switch the projector input from Paige's slideshow to mine." He nods. He has already tested the system during setup at the venue. The switch will take only 3 seconds. "And if their slideshow turns out to be harmless?" he asks. I respond, "Then I never send it." We both sit in silence for a moment. Later, as we prepare to leave, Marcus looks at me carefully and says, "You know they are not going to keep it harmless." I take a breath and reply, "I know, but I need to give them one last chance to do the right thing. Because when this is over, I want to be completely sure that I did not start it." 5 days before the wedding, Harold calls me. He does not greet me. He simply begins speaking. "Here are the rules. You will sit at table 14 in the back corner. You will not speak to the Whitmores unless they speak to you first. You will not mention your divorce, your condition, or anything about your personal life. If anyone asks what you do, you will say you work reception at a small firm. Is that clear?" I ask. "And after the wedding, I can see Grandma Ruth?" He responds, "We will see. It depends on your behavior." Then the call ends. That same evening, my phone vibrates again. Paige has added me to a group chat that includes Vivian, Harold, Paige, and now me. The first message is a preview of the reception slideshow. I watch as the images load onto my screen. It begins with photos of the Linden family, and then it shifts to me. Old photos of me are stretched and edited to look unflattering. Cartoon stickers are placed over them. Then come the labels, one per slide, bold and centered, high school dropout, divorced, broke, alone, infertile. Paige types beneath the preview, "This is going to be hilarious. Do not worry, Thea. It is all in good fun." Vivian replies, "Keep it tasteful, Paige." She does not say, "Remove it." She does not say, "This is wrong." She only says, "Keep it tasteful," as if there is a respectful way to publicly display your daughter's private medical information to 200 people. Harold does not respond at all. I take screenshots of every message and send them to Marcus without saying anything. Then I open my laptop again. My presentation is still there, clean and factual, 5 slides. I add one more slide, a sixth, white text on a black background. The measure of a family is not how they celebrate their best. It is how they treat their most vulnerable. I stare at the word infertile on my phone screen for a long moment. Then I close the group chat without replying. There is nothing left to say to people who treat your personal pain as entertainment. The wedding day arrives under a clear October sky. Millbrook Community Church stands bright and white, with its steeple catching the morning sunlight. The parking lot is filled with BMWs and Land Rovers. This is the most important social event of the season. I wear my navy blue dress, not the oversized beige one my mother selected for me. I left that dress hanging in the hotel closet without any hesitation. Inside the church, 200 guests fill the pews. The room is full of local business owners, country club members, and town officials. In the front row sit the Whitmores. Eleanor wears a deep green jacket, her silver hair styled neatly, her posture straight and confident. Her husband Richard sits beside her, composed and reserved. I take a seat in the last row. No one greets me, no one makes space for me. Harold moves through the center aisle like a politician during a campaign, shaking hands and greeting people. "I am so proud of my little girl," he says repeatedly. He is not talking about me. Vivian stands near the altar in a custom ivory dress, speaking quietly to a friend. "Both of my daughters are here today," she says, even the difficult one. She laughs softly. Her friend glances toward the back of the church. I pretend not to notice. An older woman I do not recognize sits 2 rows ahead of me. She has white hair, wears a floral dress, and has reading glasses hanging on a chain around her neck. She looks at me briefly, then turns her attention back to the front. I do not think much of it at the time. The ceremony begins. Garrett stands at the altar, looking genuinely happy and slightly nervous as he speaks his vows. His voice trembles slightly. Paige delivers her vows in a louder voice, speaking for longer and focusing mostly on herself. Across the room, I notice Marcus standing near the side entrance, wearing a black polo shirt with the AV company logo. He adjusts a microphone cable near the altar. Our eyes meet for a brief second, and he gives me a small, almost unnoticeable nod. My father continues greeting guests. My mother continues smiling, and I remain seated in the last row, like someone they invited but never intended to include. The reception takes place at Millbrook Country Club. The room is filled with crystal chandeliers and round tables covered in white linen. Behind the head table stands a large 10 by 6-foot projection screen. The air smells like expensive flowers and wealth. I am seated at table 14 in the back corner near the kitchen doors. Each time a server pushes through the doors, the noise of clattering dishes and shouted instructions fills the space behind me. The people at my table are distant relatives who clearly know nothing about me, and an older couple who spend the entire appetizer course talking about their recent cruise. A woman sitting across from me leans forward and asks politely, "What do you do for work?" I answer calmly, "I am an architect." She smiles and responds, "That is very nice." She turns toward the man sitting beside her and begins discussing kitchen renovations, completely moving on from me. On the stage, Paige steps forward and takes the microphone for the first toast. She thanks our parents. She thanks the Whitmores. She thanks her college friends, her wedding planner, and her florist. Then she pauses and looks toward the back of the room, directly at me. And my sister Thea, who, well, managed to show up today. She stops for a moment, then adds, "That is something, right?" A few scattered laughs follow. They are not genuine laughs, but polite ones, the kind people give when they are unsure whether they should laugh but do it anyway to fit in. At the head table, Harold taps his glass lightly while leaning toward Richard Whitmore, speaking quietly about Bew. Sinus matters. Eleanor Whitmore sits beside them, composed and observant. She has not committed to anything yet. I can tell by the way she holds her wine glass, close to her but untouched, as if she is still deciding. My mother appears beside me without warning. I notice her perfume before I see her. She leans down slightly and whispers, "Do not drink too much. Do not talk about yourself. And please, just smile." I smile, but not because she told me to. I smile because in about 20 minutes the slideshow will begin and I already know what it contains. At this moment, I am sitting at table 14 with a plate of food I cannot eat and surrounded by a family that wishes I had remained invisible. But I want to ask you something directly. Have you ever been placed at the back, either physically or emotionally, by people who were supposed to care about you? Not the kind of exclusion you question, but the kind you are told is normal. Think about that for a moment, because what happens next in this room with that screen and those 200 guests is the reason I am sharing this story. The lights dim. Paige's maid of honor walks up to the microphone with a confident smile that shows she has practiced this moment carefully. "And now," she says, "a special presentation from the Linden family." The screen behind the head table lights up. Soft piano music begins to play through the speakers. The first images appear, baby photos of Paige, smiling with missing front teeth, dancing in a ballet recital, attending prom. Then photos of Paige with Harold, fishing by a lake, celebrating birthdays, and family vacations. Vivian appears in a wide sun hat, Harold standing proudly beside Paige with the ocean in the background. I am not in a single photo. The audience reacts with quiet appreciation. Eleanor Whitmore smiles politely. Richard pats his son's shoulder. Then the images shift to photos of Paige and Garrett together, at a vineyard, at a football game, at Christmas dinner with the Whitmores. Each photo receives light applause. The music changes to something more playful, with a drum roll sound effect. The screen displays new text. "And now let us meet the rest of the family." Paige smiles from the head table and catches my eye, giving a small wave with her fingers. Vivian leans back in her chair, looking satisfied, as if she has been waiting for this exact moment. My stomach tightens, not from fear, but from certainty. I already know what is coming. Under the table, my phone is in my hand. The message to Marcus is ready, just one word: begin. My thumb hovers over the screen. I make a promise to myself. If the next slide is harmless, if it shows an old photo with a kind caption, if there is even a small sign of respect, I will not press the button. I will accept the moment and leave quietly. I give them one final chance to act with basic decency. The screen changes. My face appears, taken from an old high school photo. It is grainy and unflattering. Across the bottom, in bold white letters, it reads, "High school dropout." Nervous laughter spreads through the room. A few people turn to look at me. I remain still. The next slide appears, a broken heart icon next to my name, divorced. The laughter grows louder. The next slide shows a cartoon image of an empty wallet opening and closing, broke. Someone at table 6 laughs into their glass. The next slide shows a single place setting, one chair and one plate, alone. Paige is laughing openly at the head table. Vivian calmly sips her wine, watching the audience as if she is judging their reactions. Then the final slide appears, a simple image of a baby with a red X across it. The word infertile fills the 10-foot screen. For a brief moment, the room becomes quiet. It is not a comfortable silence, but a shocked one. Some people realize they have been laughing at something deeply personal. Then a few uneasy laughs break through again. Paige leans into the microphone and says, "Do not laugh too hard." She might actually cry. Vivian gently swirls her wine, her eyes fixed on me, a faint smile on her face. Harold looks directly at me from the head table and says, "It is just a joke, sweetheart. Lighten up." Eleanor Whitmore does not laugh. I see it clearly from across the room. She places her glass down slowly, her expression tightening. She looks from Harold to the screen, then toward me. I feel the heat rush to my face, my hands begin to shake. My focus narrows to that single word on the screen, infertile. My private medical history, my personal loss, displayed in front of 200 people as entertainment. That is the moment they cross the line. Not just quietly, but publicly, in large letters for everyone to see. I look around the room. There are 200 faces. Some are laughing, some are looking away. Others pretend to check their phones because they do not know how to react. Paige looks proud, as if this is the highlight of her wedding. Not the ceremony, not the vows, but this moment, watching me sit through public humiliation. Vivian lifts her glass slightly, almost like a silent celebration. Harold has already turned back to Richard Whitmore, continuing his conversation as if nothing unusual has happened. I lower my gaze to my phone. The message is still there. Begin. I think about my grandmother Ruth, about her shaking hands when she gave me the envelope, about her words. Do not let them break you again. I am not breaking. I press send. 3 seconds pass. The slideshow freezes. The screen goes dark. Paige looks confused. There seems to be a technical issue, she says, gesturing toward the back. Can someone fix that? Behind the AV booth, Marcus removes Paige's USB drive from the projector and replaces it with mine. His hands are steady. He has handled more difficult situations before. The screen lights up again. Clean white text appears on a dark background. The real Thea Linden. The room becomes completely silent. Not polite silence, but absolute stillness. Every conversation stops. Every person turns their attention to the screen. Harold stands up immediately. "What is this? Turn it off," he says, looking toward the AV booth. Marcus does not move. The system controls have been locked. The only way to shut it down is to cut the power from the utility closet, and that door has already been secured. For the first time in 16 years, my father cannot control the situation. The first slide appears. It shows me at my graduation, wearing my cap and gown, standing alone in front of the university seal with my diploma in hand. The caption reads, "No one came to my graduation." I went anyway. A low murmur spreads across the room. A woman at table 3 covers her mouth. The next slide shows my architecture license framed on my office wall. Licensed architect, Commonwealth of Virginia. The murmurs grow louder. The next slide shows me at a construction site wearing a hard hat and steel-toed boots, holding blueprints. Behind me stands the structure of a renovated courthouse. Senior architect Mercer and Hollis. Several guests turn in their chairs to look directly at me. One person, then another, then an entire table. The next slide displays my award plaque. Virginia Emerging Architect of the Year. Eleanor Whitmore pauses, her hand stopping halfway to her glass. The final slide appears, white text on a black background. You called me a dropout. I have a master's degree. You called me broke. I own my home. You called me a failure. I design buildings for a living. I stand up from table 14. I do not walk toward the stage or take the microphone. I remain where I am, in the back corner near the kitchen doors, and look toward the front of the room. Harold's face changes to something I have never seen before, a mix of anger and fear. "This is ridiculous," he says. "She probably made all of this up." Paige's smile disappears completely. "Turn it off. This is my wedding," she demands. Vivian remains frozen, her wine glass still raised, her face pale. The final slide appears, the one I added 5 days earlier. The measure of a family is not how they celebrate their best. It is how they treat their most vulnerable. I do not say anything. I do not need to. The screen is speaking for me. Harold moves quickly, stepping away from the head table with both hands raised and a forced smile on his face, the same expression he uses during public events. "Everyone, I apologize for the interruption," he says, trying to regain control of the situation. My older daughter has always had a flair for drama, Harold says with a forced chuckle. The sound falls flat. No one joins him. This is clearly a misunderstanding. He starts walking toward me. The crowd shifts slightly, creating space the way people do when they expect something serious to happen. His shoes make sharp sounds against the hardwood floor. When he reaches table 14, he lowers his voice, but not enough. The nearby tables can still hear him clearly. Sit down right now, or you will never see your grandmother again. I look directly at him. My father, 62 years old, a man who built houses and broke his own daughter. I respond in the same calm tone. You have used Grandma Ruth as control over me my entire life. That ends tonight. His jaw tightens immediately. I will call security, he says. From the head table, a chair suddenly moves back. Garrett Whitmore stands up, his expression tense. Wait, he says. He looks at Harold, then at me. Let her speak. Paige grabs his arm quickly. Garrett, she says, trying to stop him. He pulls his arm away. Something is not right here, Paige. I want to hear this. The entire room begins to shift. I can feel the change in energy, the way people adjust when something unexpected happens. Vivian stands up, her voice unsteady for the first time. Thea, please, you are humiliating yourself. I turn toward her, toward the woman who stayed silent when I was thrown out, the woman who handed me a shapeless dress and told me to disappear. No, mother, I say calmly. For the first time, I am not. At the head table, Eleanor Whitmore remains seated, but her focus has changed. Her eyes are fixed on the screen, on the words Mercer and Hollis, and something in her expression shifts. I step away from table 14. I do not rush, and I do not raise my voice. I walk to the center of the room between the tables and the dim candlelight, and I stop where everyone can see me. Around 200 people are watching. The music has stopped completely. I did not drop out, I say clearly, my voice steady, like I am explaining something in a professional meeting. My father canceled my college tuition when I was 17 because I refused to sign over land that my grandmother gave me. Harold opens his mouth, but I continue speaking. I did not choose to be alone. I was told to leave and never return. I was 18 years old with $43 and one duffel bag. Vivian's hand shakes slightly as she holds her glass. My divorce, I continue, was not a failure. I married a man my family approved of. He was controlling, and I left. That is not failure. That is survival. At table 5, a woman lifts her napkin to her face, and her husband puts his arm around her. And infertile, I say, looking directly at Paige. That is a medical condition, not something to joke about, and you chose to display it in front of 200 people at your own wedding. Paige's expression falters. Her lips tremble, but no words come out. I turn to Vivian. You helped create those slides, and you gave me a dress meant to make me disappear. Then I look at Harold. You told me to sit in the back, stay quiet, and not embarrass you. I pause for a moment, letting the silence settle. The only embarrassment in this room is what you just did to your own daughter. The silence is complete. Even the staff have stopped moving. A server stands frozen in the kitchen doorway, holding a tray of desserts. Then a chair moves slowly. Eleanor Whitmore stands up and walks directly toward me. She moves through the room with confidence, as if she owns the space, and in many ways she does. Many people in the room depend on her foundation in some way. She stops about 3 feet in front of me. Her eyes move from my face to the screen behind us, where senior architect Mercer and Hollis is still visible. T. Mercer Linden, she says, as if confirming something she already knows. You are the architect on the Millbrook Heritage Project. Yes, ma'am, I reply. Eleanor turns slowly toward Harold, making sure everyone sees exactly where she is looking. Mr. Linden, she says in a calm and precise tone, the woman you just humiliated in front of my family is the architect I personally hired to restore the most important building in this town. The color drains from Harold's face instantly. I watch it happen. His confidence disappears, replaced by something uncertain. I did not know, he says. You did not know, Eleanor replies, because you never took the time to know your own daughter. A wave of whispers moves through the room. People begin talking quietly, turning toward each other. Someone at table 8 pulls out their phone. Paige suddenly stands up, her voice rising. This is insane. She is making this up. She reaches for Garrett's hand, but he steps back. He does not take it. Vivian quickly steps forward, trying to regain control. Eleanor, please, she says with a practiced smile. This is a private family matter. Eleanor does not break eye contact with Harold. You made it public when you displayed it on a 10-foot screen. The room releases a collective breath. The tension shifts completely. No one is focused on the bride anymore. Harold tries to recover, just as he always does. He straightens himself, adjusts his tone, and forces a polite smile. Eleanor, let us not overreact, he says in a calm, controlled voice. It was just a joke. You know how families can be. I know how my family behaves, Eleanor replies firmly. We do not display our children's medical conditions for entertainment. She turns to Garrett. We need to have a private conversation tonight. Garrett nods. He has been watching Paige closely. His expression is not anger. It is something deeper, a complete reassessment. He looks at Paige and says, You told me Thea was unstable. You said she had problems and was jealous of you. Paige's voice shakes. She is jealous, she insists. She is a licensed architect with awards, Garrett responds, and you chose to display infertile on a screen at our wedding. Harold steps forward again, lowering his voice. Let us discuss the Oakdale partnership, he says quietly. Eleanor raises her hand slightly, stopping him immediately. The Oakdale partnership, she repeats. After what I just saw, there will be no partnership. Harold's words fail him. His hand drops to his side. Vivian breaks down, her composure gone. This cannot be happening, she says quietly, not looking at anyone. I remain standing in the center of the room. I do not smile. I do not react. I simply stand. For the first time in my life, that is enough. Harold has just lost the Oakdale deal. Paige has lost control of her own wedding. And my mother is crying, not for me, but for the image she tried to protect. For the first time, no one is telling me to sit down. Then Paige moves quickly. She has learned this behavior well, watching our mother shift from control to emotion in seconds. Her face changes instantly. Tears begin to fall as she rushes forward, placing her hands on her chest. This is my day, she says, her voice breaking in a practiced way. She has always been jealous of me. She turns to the crowd, crying openly. I invited her because I wanted her here. The slideshow was meant to be funny. She is twisting everything. Some guests shift uncomfortably. The room hesitates. Paige turns to Garrett. You are choosing her over me on our wedding day? Vivian rushes to her side, holding her. My daughter, she says emotionally. Then she looks at Eleanor. Can you not see what is happening? For a brief moment, the room feels uncertain again. Tears can change perception quickly. A crying bride can influence people. I see doubt appear on a few faces. Then Eleanor speaks again. She does not raise her voice. She simply takes out her phone and glances at the screen behind us, which is still displaying the slides. Funny, she says calmly, reading directly. Infertile. Failure. Alone. Here is your fully rewritten and rephrased version. Keeping the same length, even slightly longer, using aus clear, simple U.S. English, au preserving all key details, numbers, and meaning, and making it sound au natural and human written. She turns her attention to Paige and asks in a calm but firm voice, which exact part was supposed to be funny, dear? In that moment, any remaining doubt disappears completely. The room settles, almost like a jury that briefly considered another outcome but ultimately rejected it. Paige is still crying, but now her tears have no effect. They no longer carry influence. She is ruining my wedding, Paige says again. I do not raise my voice. I do not try to compete with her tone. I simply respond, I did not create the slideshow, Paige. You did. Eleanor is still not finished. She turns back toward Harold, and this time her voice is controlled, precise, and direct. The voice of someone used to handling decisions involving millions of dollars. The Oakdale Project, she says. You told us the land was completely consolidated under Linden Properties, every parcel accounted for. Harold stiffens. It is. I was not planning to say anything else. I did not prepare for this moment. But when I hear the words Oakdale and fully consolidated, something connects in my mind. The envelope in my pocket, the deed that Ruth placed in my hands exactly 1 week ago. Actually, I say, it is not. The entire room turns toward me. I reach into my jacket and pull out the folded photocopy. The center parcel, the one my grandmother gave me when I was 16, is still legally in my name. I have the deed right here. Harold's face freezes. Not the controlled expression he uses in public, but something more personal, something I recognize from years ago at the kitchen table when I was 18 and he pushed that document toward me. Eleanor looks at the paper, then back at Harold. You were planning to build on land that belongs to your estranged daughter without her consent and without informing us? She was supposed to sign it over years ago, Harold says. I was 18, I reply. You tried to force me. I refused, and you threw me out. I fold the document and place it back into my pocket. And since then, you have been telling everyone that the land belongs to you. Richard Whitmore stands up for the first time. He calmly buttons his jacket, a small but meaningful action that signals he is preparing to leave for good. Eleanor looks at Harold one final time. Mr. Linden, I believe we are finished here. Harold turns toward me. His voice is lower now, almost strained. You are ungrateful. Garrett steps forward immediately. Enough. His tone is sharp and final. That is enough, Mr. Linden. Something inside Vivian finally breaks. She has maintained her composure for nearly 40 years, holding on to her posture, her smile, and her role as the perfect hostess. But now the Whitmores are leaving, the deal is gone, and the entire room is looking at her family in a way she has always worked to avoid. She turns toward me, and the calm image disappears completely. You think you are better than us now? She says, her voice shaking. You think your little slideshow changes anything? You were nothing. You had nothing when you left this house. You are right, I say. I had nothing because you made sure of that. I did what was best for this family, she replies. You did what was best for the image, I answer. There is a difference. She looks around the room, searching for support. Her eyes land on familiar faces, people from her social circles, women she has spent 20 years having lunch with. She forces a polite smile. This is so embarrassing. Family drama, you all understand. No one responds. No one smiles back. Then a voice comes from the back of the room. An older woman from church, wearing reading glasses on a chain, slowly stands while holding onto the edge of her table. I have known Ruth Linden for 50 years, she says. Her voice is soft, but it carries clearly. She would be ashamed of what the three of you did tonight. She picks up her purse and walks toward the exit. Her heels make a steady sound against the floor. Another couple stands up. Then a man at table 9. No one makes a speech. No one creates a scene. They simply leave. Vivian sits down heavily in the nearest chair. Her hand rests on her wine glass, but she does not lift it. For the first time, she looks her actual age, possibly even older. The room continues to empty, and no one is pretending this was a joke anymore. Now the space feels different. Empty chairs are scattered between the remaining guests. The garden arrangements are beginning to wilt under the chandelier lights. Paige is sitting alone at the head table. Garrett stands near the side door with his mother. Harold remains in the center of the room, his hands at his sides, staring down at the floor. I look at what remains, my family. This room. 16 years of silence coming to an end here between dessert plates and half-empty glasses of champagne. I do not walk to the microphone. I do not need it. My voice carries clearly in the quiet room. I did not come here to ruin your wedding, Paige. I look directly at my sister. I came because Grandma Ruth asked me to. Because even after everything, she still believes this family can be better. Paige lowers her head. I do not hate any of you, I continue, looking at Harold and Vivian. But I am done being your target. I am done trying to earn the right to exist in this family. Harold finally looks at me. His eyes are red. I have never seen that before. If you want me in your life, I say, it starts with respect. Not conditions, not expectations, just respect. I pick up my clutch from table 14 and straighten my navy dress, the one I bought for myself. And if you cannot do that, then this is goodbye. I walk toward the exit, past Harold, who does not look up, past Vivian, who is staring down, past Paige, who turns her face away. At the door, someone calls out, Miss Linden! I turn. Eleanor Whitmore is standing near the coat check. She is already wearing her green jacket, her car keys in her hand. Monday morning, she says. My office. We have a project to complete. I nod. She nods in return. Then I walk outside into the October night. The parking lot is half empty. Many people have already left. I sit in my car without starting the engine, my hands resting on the steering wheel as I look back at the country club entrance. There is a knock on the window. Marcus stands there, still wearing his AV company polo shirt, holding 2 cups of coffee. I unlock the door. He sits in the passenger seat and hands me one. Are you okay? He asks. No, I say, holding the cup with both hands. But I am better than I have been in years. We sit quietly for a few minutes. Through the windshield, I watch people leaving the building, couples walking quickly, a man loosening his tie. No one is laughing. My phone vibrates. Garrett, I am sorry for what my wife's family did. Paige and I need to talk. I do not know what happens next. Another message arrives. D. Your grandmother saw everything. Someone's niece was streaming the reception live in a family group chat. Ruth watched all of it. She is laughing. She said, That is my girl. I close my eyes for a moment. I imagine Ruth in her nursing home bed, watching everything, proud. Another message. Eleanor Whitmore. I have informed my team about the Oakdale land issue. Harold will not be building on your property. We will move forward with a different partner. I reply to Eleanor, Thank you. To D. Tell her I love her. To Garrett. I am sorry too. For everything. I do not respond to Harold, Vivian, or Paige. There is nothing left to say that was not already said in that room. Marcus starts the car. Where to? A hotel for tonight, I say. Then home tomorrow. As we drive away, I watch the country club grow smaller in the rearview mirror. Millbrook is a small town, and small towns always talk. During the week after the wedding, everything begins to change. I hear most of it from Dee and from Marcus, who follows local Facebook groups closely. Vivian is quietly removed from the Millbrook Autumn Gala Planning Committee. There is no announcement, just a short email saying the committee is being restructured. She calls 3 board members. None of them answer. Harold loses 2 business partners within the first 10 days. A developer from Stanton withdraws from a joint project. A contractor who worked with him for 15 years sends a polite letter ending their partnership. Linden Properties does not collapse. Harold is too established for that. But the damage is visible, and in a town where reputation matters, damage spreads quickly. Paige and Garrett begin to fall apart. Garrett suggests counseling. Paige refuses. She sees it as an insult. By the second week, Garrett packs a suitcase and moves into his parents' guest house. They are not divorced, but they are no longer together. Vivian's book club, which she hosted every 3rd Thursday for 11 years, quietly moves to another house. No one informs her. I do not follow these updates in real time. I am back in Richmond, working again, sitting at my drafting table, finishing a courthouse renovation, preparing a heritage project presentation. One afternoon, Marcus reads a post from the Millbrook Community Facebook page while we eat lunch. Someone shared a photo of the slideshow screen with the caption, This happened at the Whitmore Linden wedding. Shame on the Lindens. 87 reactions, 42 comments. You did not do this to them, Marcus says as he closes his laptop. I know, I reply. They did this to themselves. I just stopped protecting it. I continue eating my sandwich. It honestly tastes better than anything that was served at table 14. 3 weeks after the wedding, on a Tuesday evening, I am sitting at my desk reviewing blueprints for the Millbrook Heritage Project. Eleanor's foundation wants the full presentation ready before the end of the month. My phone starts ringing. Harold. For a moment, I consider ignoring it. Then I decide to answer. He does not begin with an apology. He begins with a deal. The land, he says. Name your price. Let's settle this like adults. The land is not for sale, I respond. It was Grandma Ruth's gift to me. It stays mine. You are destroying this family over a piece of land. You destroyed this family over a piece of land 16 years ago, I reply calmly, when you chose a parcel over your daughter. There is silence, a long silence, the kind that sits heavy on the phone line. I did what I thought was right, he finally says. So did I answer. And this is where we are now. Another pause, then his tone shifts. It softens, almost sounding human. Your grandmother is not your leverage anymore. I keep my voice steady. I contacted Shenandoah Hills directly. I am listed as her secondary emergency contact. I can visit her whenever I want. You cannot use her against me anymore. I hear him breathe slowly. It sounds like a man realizing that the last bit of control he had is gone. You were always stubborn, he says. I learned from the best, I reply. I wait. I expect something more. An apology, some honesty, even a small crack in the wall he spent 62 years building. Instead, he hangs up. I place my phone back on the desk. My hands are steady. My heart is calm. There was a time when a phone call from Harold Linden would have affected me for days. I would replay every word, question every response, and wonder if I had been too harsh or too ungrateful. That time is over. I return to my blueprints. 2 weeks after that call, on a Sunday morning, I am making coffee when my phone lights up again. Page. I let it ring 3 times before answering. Old habits, preparing myself. But the voice I hear is not the Page I know, not the one who smiled while putting infertile on a screen. This voice is different, flat, tired, honest. Garrett moved out, she says. Mom will not stop crying. Dad is not speaking to anyone. I sit down at my kitchen table and listen. I do not interrupt. The slideshow was wrong, she says. I know that. She stops, then starts again. I do not know why I did it. I have been acting like this my whole life, and no one ever told me to stop. Because they were too busy doing the same thing to me, I say quietly. She exhales. Yeah. Silence. I do not know who I am without being the favorite, she admits. It is the most honest thing she has ever said. I could respond with anger. I could remind her of every time she hurt me, every holiday where she was celebrated and I was ignored, every lie she repeated and turned into her own weapon. But that is their way of handling things, not mine. Then maybe it is time you figure that out, I say. Without you as the target, can we start over? She asks. I do not know, I answer honestly. But you can start by talking to someone. A professional. Not mom, not dad. Someone who will actually be honest with you. There is a long pause. Okay, she says. Neither of us says, I love you. Neither of us says, goodbye. We stay on the phone for a few more seconds in silence. Then the call ends. I put my phone down and look out the window. The morning light is soft and golden across the trees. I do not cry. I just feel tired, but lighter than before. The following Saturday, I drive to Shenandoah Hills. No call to Harold, no time limit, no Vivian checking her reflection in the hallway. I just walk in. Dee greets me at the front desk with a smile that shows she has been waiting for this visit. She is in the sunroom, she says. Good morning for her. She watched your slideshow video again at breakfast. 5th time. She made me replay the part where Eleanor said, You did not bother to know your own daughter. She clapped. The sunroom is warm and filled with light. Plants line the windows. Grandma Ruth is sitting in her wheelchair near the glass, a blanket across her lap, her white hair glowing in the sunlight. When she sees me, her face lights up completely, not a polite smile, a real one. She takes my hand as soon as I sit down. You stood up, she says. In that room full of people, you stood up. You taught me how, I reply. She squeezes my hand. Now tell me everything. Tell me about your work. Tell me about your life. We have time. So I tell her everything. The GED, the diner shifts, college, my first project, a small library in a town no one talks about, the courthouse, the awards, my apartment. She listens closely. She asks questions. She laughs when I tell her about sleeping in my car and eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week. No one interrupts. No one ends the visit. Outside, an old oak tree stretches across the lawn, strong and rooted, like the one on the land she gave me when I was 16. Some things cannot be taken away. 3 months later, I am back at my desk in Richmond. Monday morning, coffee in hand. On my wall is a framed image of the Millbrook Heritage Project, the textile mill restored, red brick, tall windows, an open courtyard. Eleanor's foundation approved the design last week. Next month, I will present it to the Millbrook Town Council. I will stand in front of the same people who watched me be humiliated and show them what I have built. The land, my 2 acres, remains untouched. I have not decided what to do with it yet. Sometimes I imagine building something simple there, a small home, a porch where Ruth can sit. Maybe one day. Ruth's surgery went well. Hip replacement. No complications. She is in therapy now, walking with support, complaining about the food. I visit every 2 weeks. We talk about simple things. Not Harold. It is peaceful. Harold has not called again. Vivian sent one message. I'm sorry. Just 2 words. Nothing more. I read it. I did not respond. Maybe I will one day. Maybe I will not. Both are okay. Paige started therapy. Garrett moved back in after 1 month with the condition that they continue counseling. Dee told me Paige visited Ruth last week, first time in over a year. She brought flowers. Ruth said Paige seemed different, quieter. I do not know what that means yet, but it matters. Marcus and I are working on a new project together, a historic schoolhouse in the Shenandoah Valley. Small budget, but meaningful work. Most mornings I eat breakfast alone. Coffee, toast, news. But being alone is not the same as being lonely. I learned that when I stopped sitting at table 14. This morning, I stand in front of the mirror. Navy blazer, white blouse, hair pulled back. On my dresser is the invitation to present at the Millbrook Town Council. My name is printed clearly, Thea Linden, Senior Architect. Not T. Mercer Linden, not anyone else's name, just mine. 6 months ago, I sat in the back of a church watching my father act like he controlled everything. 4 months ago, I stood in a crowded room while my life was turned into a joke for 200 people. Today, I am driving back to Millbrook, but not to the old house, not to ask for approval. I am going to the textile mill, the one I rebuilt from the ground up, piece by piece, just like I rebuilt myself. They called me infertile, divorced, failure, dropout, broke, alone. Some of those words are true, but none of them define me. You do not need your family's approval to live a meaningful life. You just need to stop asking for it. I pick up my keys and walk outside. The October air is cool and sharp. The trees are changing color. I start driving toward Millbrook, toward the work I built, toward something that is mine. I am not going back. I am moving forward. That is my story, and if you made it this far, then maybe part of it connects with you too. So here is my question for you. Do not just say how you feel. Tell me what you will do differently after hearing this. Set one boundary this week, just one. If you chose begin earlier, subscribe. I will share another story soon that may change how you think about family loyalty. Check the description for more stories like this. Thank you for being here. It means more than you realize.